Hello folks, Pipe Man 1861 here. Just got off work a little while ago, just got home. Pardon me. Another beautiful evening here in southern Indiana. Had some rain come through earlier. Supposed to have some pretty good storms tomorrow, or at least overnight tomorrow morning. But it's a beautiful evening. I'm smoking my Missouri Meerschaum Country Gentleman with the bent stem. And I am, tonight, just like the other night, I'm smoking, oh dear, what am I smoking? Oh, brother. Wilkie's Crystal Palace blend. I really enjoy English blends, but my wife cannot stand the smell of them. They give her a headache terribly. It's the lattice in them she can't handle. So she's out of town this weekend, so I figured I'd take advantage of that. She'll be back tomorrow morning, so, well, day after tomorrow morning, so that will give me ample time to air out after this. This is going to be a little different. I'm not going to rant tonight. Although if I thought long enough, I would be able to think of something to rant about. Another thing I'm very interested in, I enjoy, is reading. And I don't enjoy reading all these modern... There are very few modern books that I enjoy reading. They're not well written. They don't have any great thought behind them. There are some good ones, I'm not saying there aren't, but the vast majority of them are, in my opinion, garbage. So, let me see here. So tonight, I'm going to read a chapter out of a book that I really enjoy. It's a short chapter, I promise. And it is in a book so a lot of you will be very familiar with, some of you may not be. It's entitled My Lady Nicotine by JM Barrie. Of course, JM Barrie, he was most well known for being the author of Peter Pan. But he also was an avid pipe smoker and cigar smoker, and he wrote this little book. It is a small book. Probably won't be able to read it. The camera's inverted, but it's a small book. It was printed, I believe, refresh my memory on the publication date. I believe it's 1894. Mine doesn't have it, but it's a very interesting little book. It starts out saying that he since he had been married, he had given up smoking entirely, and he was his friends were trying to convince him to keep doing it. And he said, "No, I'm not going to do it. My wife doesn't want me to." And he said he's perfectly happy with it, etc., etc. You'll have to read the book. I'm not going to ruin it for you. But one of my favorite chapters, well, there's three favorite chapters. The first is the Arcadia Mixture. The third, fourth, and fifth chapters are my three favorite chapters. But I'm going to read you the fourth chapter. Let me relight real quick here. All right. So, My Lady Nicotine by Mr. JM Barrie, Chapter 4, and the title is My Pipes. And this really would be better read in an English accent, but I'm not going to do that to you. In a select company of scoffers, my briar was known as the Mermaid. The mouthpiece was a cigarette holder, and months of unwearied practice were required before you found the angle at which the bowl did not drop off. This brings me to one of the many advantages that my briar had over all other pipes. It has given me a reputation for gallantry, to which without it I fear I could lay no claim. I used to have a passion for repartee, especially in the society of ladies. But it is with me as with many other men of parts whose wit is ever to be fired by a long fuse. My best things strike me as I wend my way home. This embittered my early days, and not till the pride of youth had been tamed could I stop to lay in a stock of repartee on likely subjects the night before. Then my pipe helped me. It was the apparatus that carried me to my prettiest compliment. Having exposed my pipe in some prominent place where it could hardly escape notice, I took measures for ensuring a visit from a lady, young, graceful, accomplished. Or I might have it ready for a chance visitor. Yeah. On her arrival, I conducted her to a seat near my pipe. It is not good to hurry on to the repartee at once, so I talked for a time of the weather, the theaters, the new novel. I kept my eye on her, and by she began to look about her. She observed the strange-looking pipe. Now is the critical moment. It is possible that she may pass it by without remark, in which case all is lost. But experience has shown me that 4 times out of 6 she touches it in assumed horror to pass some humorous remark. Off tumbles the bowl. "Oh," she exclaims, "see what I have done. I am so sorry." I pull myself together. "Madam," I reply calmly and bowing low, "what else was to be expected? You came near my pipe, and it lost its head." She blushes, but cannot help feeling pleased, and I set my pipe for the next visitor. By the help of a notebook, of course, I guarded myself against paying this very neat compliment to any person more than once. However, after I smoked the Arcadia, the desire to pay ladies compliments went from me. Journeying back into the past, I come to a time when my pipe had a mouthpiece of fine amber. The bowl and the rest of the stem were of briar, but it was a gentlemanly pipe without silver mountings. Such tobacco I reveled in as may have filled the pouch of Pan, as he lay smoking on the mountainsides. Once I saw a beautiful woman with brown hair, in and out of which the rays of a morning sun played hide and seek, that might not unworthily have been compared to it. Beguiled by the exquisite Arcadia, the days and the years passed for me in delicate rings of smoke, and I contentedly watched them sailing to the skies. How continuous was the line of those lovely circles, and how straight! One could have passed an iron rod through them from end to end. But one day I had a harsh awakening. I bit the amber mouthpiece of my pipe through, and life was never the same again. It is strange how attached we become to old friends, though they be but inanimate objects. The old pipe put aside, I turned to a meerschaum, which had been presented to me years before, with the caution that I must not smoke it unless I wore kid gloves. There was no savor in that pipe for me. I tried another briar, and it made me unhappy. Clays would not keep in with me. It seemed as if they knew I was hankering after the old pipe and went out in disgust. Then I got a new amber mouthpiece for my first love. In a week I had bitten that through too, and in an over-anxious attempt to file off the ragged edges, I broke the screw. Moralists have said that the smoker who has no thought but for his pipe never breaks it, that it is he only who while smoking concentrates his mind on some less worthy object that sends his teeth through the amber. This may be so, for I am a philosopher, and when working out new theories, I may have been careless even of that which inspired them most. After the second incident, nothing went well for me or with my pipe. I took the mouthpieces out of other pipes and fixed them onto the Mermaid. In a little while, one of them became too wide, another broke as I was screwing it in more firmly. Then the bowl cracked at the rim, and split at the bottom. This was an annoyance until I found out what was wrong and plugged up the fissures with sealing wax. The wax melted and dropped upon my clothes after a time, but it was easily renewed. It was now that I had the happy thought of bringing a cigarette holder to my assistance. But of course one cannot make a pipe stem out of a cigarette holder all at once. The thread you wind around the screw has a disappointing way of coming undone when down falls the bowl with an escape of sparks. Twisting a piece of paper around the screw is an improvement, but until you've acquired the knack, the operation has to be renewed every time you relight your pipe. This involves a sad loss of time, and in my case it afforded a butt for the dull wit of visitors. Otherwise, I found it satisfactory, and I was soon astonishingly adept at making paper screws. Eventually my briar became as serviceable as formerly, though not perhaps so handsome. I fastened on the holder with sealing wax, and often a week passed without me having to renew the joint. It was no easy matter lighting a pipe like mine, especially when I had no matches. I always meant to buy a number of boxes, but somehow I put off doing it. Occasionally I found a box of Vestas on my mantelpiece, which some caller had left there by mistake, or sympathizing perhaps with my case. But they were such a novelty that I never felt quite at home with them. Sorry for the delays, folks. Generally, I remembered they were there just after my pipe was lit. When I kept them in mind and looked forward to using them, they were at the other side of the room, and it would have been a pity to get up for them. Besides, the most convenient medium for lighting one's pipe is paper, after all, and if you have not an old envelope in your pocket, there is probably a photograph standing on the mantelpiece. It is convenient to have the magazines lying handy, or a page from a book. Handmade paper burns beautifully. Will do. To be sure, there is the lighting of your paper. For this, your lamp is practically useless, standing in the middle of the table, while you are in an easy chair by the fireside, and as for the tape and spark contrivance, it is the introduction of machinery into the softest joys of life. The fire is best. It is near you, and you drop your burning spill into it with a minimum waste of energy. The proper fire for pipes is one in a cheerful blaze. If your spill is carelessly constructed, the flame runs up into your fingers before you know what you are doing, so that it is as well to marry and get your wife to make spills for you. Before you begin to smoke, scatter these about the fireplace, then you will be able to reach them without rising. The irritating fire is the one that is burned low, when the coals are more than half cinders, and cling to each other in fear of death. With such a fire, it is no use attempting to light a pipe all at once. Your better course now is to drop little bits of paper into the likely places in the fire and have a spill ready to apply to the one that lights first. It is an anxious moment, for they may merely shrivel up sullenly without catching fire, and in that case some men lose their tempers. Bad to lose your temper over your pipe. No pipe ever really rivaled the briar in my affections, though I can recall a mad month when I fell in love with two little meerschaums, which I christened Romulus and Remus. They lay together in one case in Regent Street, and it was with difficulty that I could pass the shop without going in. Often I took side streets to escape their glance, but at last I asked the price. It startled me, and I hurried home to the briar. I forget when it was that a sort of compromise struck me. This was that I should present the pipes to my brother as a birthday gift. Did I really mean to do this, or was I only trying to cheat my conscience? Who can tell? I hurried again into Regent Street. There they were, more beautiful than ever. I hovered about the shop for quite half an hour that day. My indecision and vacillation were pitiful. Buttoning up my coat, I would rush from the window only to find myself back again in 5 minutes. Sometimes I had my hand on the shop door. Then I tore it away and hurried into Oxford Street. Then I slunk back again. Self whispered, "Buy them for your brother." Conscience said, "Go home." At last I braced myself up for a magnificent effort and jumped into a bus bound for London Bridge. This saved me for the time. I now began to calculate how I could become owner of the meerschaums prior to dispatching them by parcel post to my brother without paying for them. That was my way of putting it. I calculated that by giving up my daily paper, I should save 13 shillings in 6 months. After all, why should I take in a daily paper? To read through columns of public speeches and police cases and murders in Paris is only to squander valuable time. Now, when I left home, I promised my father not to waste my time. My father had been very good to me. Why then should I do that which I had promised him not to do? Then again, there were the theaters. During the past 6 months, I had spent several pounds on theaters. Was this right? My mother, who has never, I think, been in a theater, strongly advised me against frequenting such places. I did not take this much to heart at the time. Theaters did not seem to me to be immoral. But after all, my mother is older than I am, and who am I to set my views up against hers? By avoiding the theaters for the next 6 months, I am already, say, 3 pounds to the good. I have been frittering away my money, too, on luxuries. And luxuries are effeminate. Thinking the matter over temperately and calmly in that way, I saw that I should be thoughtfully saving money instead of spending it by buying Romulus and Remus, as I've already called them. At the same time, I should be gratifying my father and my mother and leading a higher and a nobler life. Isn't this amazing reasoning? I wish I had thought of this years ago. Don't think my wife would fall for that, though. Even then, I do not know that I should have bought the pipes until the 6 months were up, had I not been driven to it by jealousy. On my life, love for a pipe is very like love for a woman, though they say it is not so acute. Many a man thinks there is no haste to propose until he sees a hated rival approaching. Even if he is not in a hurry for the lady himself, he loathes the idea of her giving herself, in a moment of madness, to that other fellow. Rather than allow that, he proposes himself and so ensures her happiness. It was so with me. Romulus and Remus were taken from a window to show to a black-bearded, swarthy man whom I suspected of designs upon them the moment he entered the shop. Ah, the agony of waiting until he came out. He was not worthy of them. I never knew how much I loved them until I had nearly lost them. As soon as he was gone, I asked if he had priced them, and was told that he had. He was to call again tomorrow. I left a deposit of a guinea, hurried home for more money, and that night Romulus and Remus were mine. But I never really loved them as I loved my briar. Like I say, that is chapter 4 of My Lady Nicotine. The previous chapter, chapter 3, is entitled The Arcadia Mixture, in which he sings the praises of the mystical tobacco. And chapter 5, the chapter following, is also quite entertaining. It's entitled My Tobacco Pouch. But I think I shall stop there for the evening. But if you have never read My Lady Nicotine by JM Barrie, it is a very pleasurable, enjoyable little book to read. And it really doesn't take long to read. It's, well, let's see how many pages there. And this is a large, this book has fairly large type, large print, if you will. Let's see the pages. It's 231 pages. And that's with large print. So it's very readable. It's very entertaining, too. There are many other books. I'll probably read some more in books in the future. But for now, I think I'll relight my pipe, finish my smoke, and go in and have a nice relaxing evening. And I hope you all do the same. And as the late Roy Rogers used to say, goodbye, good luck, and may the good Lord take a liking to you. This is Pipe Man 1861 signing off. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon. Bye, folks.